Partnered by Times Influence.
The Global Business Summit is here once again with its 5th edition with a new theme of social, sustainable and scalable. A flagship initiative of the Times Group that envisions to bring together visionaries, thought leaders, heads of state, policymakers, academicians and corporate heads cohesively driving a singular agenda for scripting economic change by connecting the building blocks of economics for India and the globe. Launched on January 15, 2015, GBS seeks to provide solutions to key macroeconomic challenges being faced in the current context and put forth a blueprint for sustainable, inclusive economic growth. GBS also serves as a platform for government-to-government interactions, business-to-government meetings, business-to-business engagements, and helps corporates and governments secure investments by showcasing opportunities to apt audiences. Here are some high points of the event.
In this session, we are going to try and decode Brexit for all of you. Let me call upon Martin first.
Before we dive straight into Brexit, I just want to make the point that it is not the only thing going on in the world. Ireland is one of the most globalized economies in the world, and what happens elsewhere is very important, and Brexit is achieving a lot of the attention. And when the British people voted to leave the European Union, and from an Irish perspective, we very much regret that decision, but we also respect the decision of the British people. That is how democracy works. Just to be very clear, the Republic of Ireland, Southern Ireland, will remain within the European Union, and it is absolutely committed to membership of the European Union. And for Indian firms who are working and established in the Republic of Ireland, there will be no impact. Brexit is bad for the UK, in our view. It is bad for Ireland, and it is bad for the European Union. And every economic analysis shows this. And our own economic analysis shows that the cost of Brexit to the Irish economy is somewhere between 3 to 7% of opportunity cost to GDP growth out to 2030. And we have seen a significant influx of companies into Southern Ireland, into the Republic of Ireland, because they are seeking to secure their access to the European market. The reason that they have chosen Ireland is because outside of the UK, Ireland is the closest thing to the UK, only better. It is English-speaking, it has a common law system, we have a talent pool, we have very attractive taxation regime, and Ireland is one of the most stable countries in the world from a political perspective, and particularly as it pertains to enterprise policy.
So Martin spoke about the impact of Brexit in terms of cost and disruption for business. He said Brexit introduces a cost and disrupts businesses and impacts business behavior. Can I call upon Dr. Loretta to give us some sneak preview of what she imagines will happen there?
The elements of Brexit that have been coming through in terms of the currency piece and in terms of uncertainty, they are relevant for Ireland too. Uncertainty has been weighing on sentiment in Ireland, on consumer and business confidence. Firms, again, that are trading into the UK are just wary of where things are going to go. The pound, it has had the opposite effect, of course, because it's been a negative for Irish exporters and it's impacted on competitiveness. And by and large, again, we would see Brexit as being a negative for the Irish economy because it is going to mean reduced trade with the UK going forward, and the UK is an important trading partner for us, and it's going to be more costly trade because we have tariffs there, we've got customs barriers, we've got delays at ports and so on. So life isn't as simple anymore. Weighing against that but not offsetting it is is the piece that Martin was talking to a little bit there about relocating FDI. And Ireland has been benefiting from the fact that a number of firms that are currently based in the UK are looking at where else they may go in order to serve the EU market. And Ireland has served that purpose because it's well positioned in that respect. And also new firms thinking about looking to serve the EU market, where they may have gone to the UK in the past, are now looking at Ireland as well. So there are opportunities in that respect. There are also opportunities for Irish firms to broaden and to diversify. So whereas the first port of call would typically have been the UK in the past, if that isn't so readily accessible, if life is more difficult, then it is important to start branching out and to looking at new areas of the world and growing areas of the world, like the Indian economy, for example. So all in all, from an economic perspective, Brexit, it's lose-lose across the board. Economics lost this argument a long time ago. It has become very much about politics. Insofar as there are potential opportunities out of it, well, then it's important, I think, that we try and seize those as well and make the best of the situation.
Now let's move over to Shane. So Shane, you're part of the leadership team of probably India's largest diversified conglomerate, the Tata Group. So put on your Indian hat and tell us, how is a large diversified Indian group thinking about its large exposure to the UK, and give us specifics to the extent you can of what your strategy for dealing with various scenarios of Brexit is.
As Vivek said, the group it's our third largest market after India and the US. I don't think it's of any surprise to anybody that a company with a 150-year history has seen a lot of world events and has always taken a long-term view, and I think that's the position. Now, when you think about the impacts, if you kind of study that more closely, hard Brexit is no good for anyone. The deal that's on the table right now is not perfect, but it's the one that, if agreed to, can at least provide some opportunity for business to adapt to the new reality and kind of work through it and to establish new trade deals and other things. And why is that important, right? Because if you think about how much our supply chains are global in nature, so if I just take Jaguar Land Rover for in particular, the automotive industry is a huge industry for the UK. It actually represents 13% of UK's imports. It's actually doubled in significance for the UK since the 2008 financial crisis. Jaguar Land Rover itself is 30% of the UK's exports in terms of automotive, so a pretty big contributor to the economy there. And we think about 4 pillars, or things that we have to think through as we're scenario planning here. So you have to think through the tariffs, and it's easy to say let's move back to WTO tariffs, but that has a cost, right? So it's an average 10% on an automotive, 4% on parts. When you add that up, that's pretty big numbers pretty quickly. We also think about borders and the freedom of movement, customs in particular. We think about regulations. So how are regulations in a highly regulated set of industries going to evolve in the UK? Are they going to stay close to the EU? Are they going to develop their own emission standards and other things? You've got to work your way through that. And the last one is the access to talent, actually, and the freedom of movement. So, I would say that, the access to STEM talent from outside of the UK and in from the EU is actually very, very important. So, look, as a company, I would say long-term view, but there's a lot of short-term things that we're going to have to work our way through.
Thank you very much for today's contributions.
I think often the purpose is one of the most confused words used in our language, and we often confuse purpose with doing CRM, CSR, or we think purpose is really about doing some good in some places. But purpose is really your reason to exist. There's a lovely quote by Mark Twain that there are only 2 things that matter in your life: the day you're born and the day you figure out why. So purpose in many ways is your reason to exist. And for businesses, it's really about, in many ways, not your reason to sell. And we often confuse, what purpose really is. So I thought we would just open this discussion to figure out what really purpose is and how it's different from a vision or a mission or even doing something good for society, which is what often purpose gets connected with. Because if it's about doing good with society, many brands which exist, for many reasons would not really have a role to play in our society. So I think just opening the discussion on what really is purpose for us.
Specifically saying that what do we do in our business, in our day-to-day work, which actually goes beyond earning a profit for us. And that's how we define or choose activities. So I'm giving an example. Cargill is a leading marketer and seller of edible oils in this country. India is a nourishment deficient country. In 2008, we took a unilateral decision that, and in sort of consultation with GAIN, which is a global alliance for improved nutrition, that edible oils are a very good vehicle to transmit micronutrients. So we took a decision to fortify our oils with vitamin A and D and sell it to the consumer as it is without charging anything extra for it. We also knew that this was something so simple that everybody else can copy us. We did position it as a marketing advantage or a product advantage. And sure enough, competition copied it. And today, almost 40 to 50% of the oil that is sold in the country is fortified. And that goes a long way in addressing the problem of malnutrition. So that was how we looked at making our business more purposeful.
I think eventually it is the leadership which comes to the core, because the leadership will decide what is the purpose of the country, purpose of your state, purpose of your city, purpose of your family, purpose of your business. So eventually it's the leadership in every position you need to either elect or choose or bring on wherever it is required, so that we have that collective leadership can bring the change on the 5 elements we talked about.
Purpose of a company goes much beyond. For me, how we formulate the purpose is the why that everybody has to go back. So in our case, when we had transformed everything and we wanted really to empower, my question was always, can we help our employees to do their purpose while they are working with us? So for me, the purpose of the company is that why that you answer always when you have to take a decision, and then you help to align the whole organization to take right decisions, and you are able to empower and build your strategy on it.
Purpose to me is a cause in the organization, which each and every employee believes in. So a lot of times we talk about goal, mission. They're all top-down, which each and every employee knows, but they don't believe in. So I think creating a cause in the organization to win, where it's more bottom-up than top-down, to me that is purpose.
Purpose of business basically is shareholder maximization, of meeting the expectation of the shareholders, keeping your employees happy, contented, and meeting the expectations of your customer and keeping them satisfied. I think these are the core purpose of an organization. Whatever else you do around it, in terms of the work for society, invariably it leads towards that.
We are in the media tech business. And we realized that while people had a lot of linear broadcast options of consuming media all these years, when technology came in, it became far more complex. And we need to see, in a B2C world, we need to see every customer as he existed and every user as he existed. And when we were building this whole platform, we realized it wasn't as easy as just put some content on and people will watch it. When technology came in, you needed to understand that this needed to be far more empowering. It took us a huge amount of effort, but we kept our purpose of empowering the entire country and entire nation at the center of all of this. All of us knew at the center of it was the Indian user who was going to be empowered through entertainment and technology together. And we needed to do what it took, not just what we wanted to do, but what it took to actually be able to deliver this product out there.
The purpose is in addition to the goals and responsibilities which a business has. And perhaps purpose defines the culture of the organization as well as the culture of the country we are in. Now, if you take what I'm very focused on is skills development and talent development, and if it's women, fantastic. It covers a lot of our objectives. But when you look at where did it stem from, it came from a business need. And sometimes the purpose comes from business need, as Siraj said. We just couldn't find the right talent which we wanted to have in our company because of the skills gap. And then we said, if I have to be successful, my team has to have these profiles. I'm not getting it, and let's get focused on where is this talent, how do we encourage them. Maybe it's the women we are missing, and maybe we are missing the people in STEM, and how do we develop skills. Very often, the purpose we define comes out as something which was hampering us from not doing our business well.
The way we look at purpose is, I mean, having one purpose is one thing, and it takes a lot to find the purpose. The other is to really execute on the back of that purpose, because if you don't do anything with the purpose, it can actually become a problem. So the way we see this is, if you have no purpose and you don't do anything, you're actually a lazy brand, right? If you have a purpose, right, but you don't do anything about it, you are actually a dreamy brand. You're in a dream zone. When you don't have a purpose and you're doing lots, which we see happening a lot in categories like retail or telecom, you're actually a noisy brand. Or when you get both the purpose and you do something with it, we call it more a humankind brand. Great companies are built on the back of great people, but great people are built on the back of great purpose. So I think on that note, let's just end this topic. I really thank you all for your time and for your wisdom.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for talking to me. First up, tell me about GE in India. What are some of your key sectors that you see the company focusing on?
There are really three, I would say, primary pillars for GE in South Asia, and this is actually applicable globally as well. So we have a big focus on the power sector, very important for us, very broad business, and that cuts across power generation. All forms of power generation, both conventional and renewables, as well as transmission and distribution, right? Getting out electricity to the end users at the last mile. Aviation is another big sector, both commercial and defense.
Right.
So in commercial, we supply jet engines and have a big footprint in India. We supply engines to most of the major carriers. And then healthcare is the last pillar. So we do both diagnostics and also assist with targeted treatment. We touch about 300 million lives with what we do in India, so it's a big, important business for us.
For sure, and three key sectors, in fact, for the country and for the economy as well.
Yeah.
The importance of R&D and innovation, I know GE is really strong in that.
Yeah.
But just your thoughts on India playing an important role in that aspect, the innovation, the R&D that comes out from here as well.
Yeah. So we have a very big R&D footprint in India, and that's been established back in 2001 when we started to invest in the Jack Welch Technology Center in Bangalore. So today we've got about 6,000 engineers, scientists and engineers across India. And for many years, over the last 19 years, that's been the presence. We've been innovating really for the world, right? So they've been part of the global technology teams and contributing a lot. We've got over 3,000 patents issued. So we have a lot of presence here, but it has been for a lot of years what we do globally. Back in, I would say, 2011 and 12, we started to also look at how can we take this incredible talent base that we have, and how can we apply that to innovation in India. And so we've got great examples of starting that journey and innovating. We did a lot in healthcare early on, especially on value-based products. We launched a very successful CT CAT scan product, which has now gone out to tier 2, tier 3 cities. These are cities that never had access to CAT scanners, and it plays a huge role in trauma cases, right, where you're saving lives. So, what I've experienced has been is that innovating in India, well, it started early in the journey, of thinking that this would be applicable to really the Indian market. It's really proved itself to be applicable globally. So a lot of the innovation has gone out. Renewable energy is another big sector where we've innovated here in India.
And future plans for India, what would the next maybe 2 to 5 years look for GE India?
Yeah. Every sector that we're in, we're in good sectors. If you look out over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, right? So every sector has good opportunity because there's a big need in the country. So if you look at the power sector, big opportunity in transmission and distribution. Renewables, of course, it's going to be, it's the third largest market in the world, probably going to be number 2 soon. So big opportunity there. And really with renewables coming into onto the grid, there's a massive opportunity to how do you integrate this kind of power into the grid. So with storage technology, with software technology, transmission and distribution. So all sectors of or I should say all facets of the power business are kind of involved in that. Healthcare, with Ayushman Bharat, it is going to be a big evolving opportunity. Not that it is not today, but I think it's only going to accelerate. And if you look at passenger traffic from an aviation standpoint, India is the fastest growing market in the world today. So all of the sectors have good opportunity, and we've got a good footprint, right? And we continue to obviously innovate and make sure that we can increase share, and also most importantly, really give back to the people in India in terms of these technologies, right? Everyone has a purpose, every one of the technologies, whether you're moving people, you're diagnosing people in healthcare, or you're providing electricity, basic electricity to the population in India.
Thank you so much for talking to me, Mr. Vanshu, and all the very best for the way ahead for GE. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. I'm now in conversation with Mr. Sumit Mukhija. He's the Chief Executive at STT Global Data Centers India. You already have 2 of India's largest data centers in Pune and Chennai. What are some more plans for India, for STT?
Absolutely. So we are very, very bullish about India. And in fact, we are going to add close to 150 megawatts of critical IT load in the next 3 to 5 years. That calls for an investment in the tune of 7,000 to 8,000 crores. So that's the kind of level of commitment we have on India. And in fact, next 12 months is very critical for us as we launch new data centers in Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai and Pune to start with, and we bring them for our customers to serve.
Security is a number one concern for everyone. Security, privacy. How are you putting in checks and evolving these checks to ensure that everybody's data is safe?
Absolutely. So data centers, purpose-built data centers that providers like us run, they are inherently safer than customers think, right? Because there are a lot of mindsets which customers have around security once the data goes out of their premises.
There's always the conspiracy theory.
Right. And a simple analogy which I always say is your money is safer in the bank than under your bed. Same way your data is safer with a purpose-built data center. We have 5 levels of physical security, and then the providers who host with us have multiple levels of logical and network securities, which together mean that the data is in safe hands. It is much safer than captive data centers.
Finally, Ms. Mukhija, before I let you go, we're here at GBS 2019. Your thoughts on the importance of a forum like this?
Absolutely. And India is growing at a very frantic pace. Our economy is growing. In fact, it is outpacing some of the global economies. It has been outpacing some of the global economies in the world. So a forum like GBS is actually very, very critical because it allows us to hear directly from the world leaders as well as from the policymakers in terms of Indian economy in the context of the global footprint and global economy, and also some of the factors that have the potential to take the Indian economy to the next level.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mukhija, for talking to us, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Partnered by Times Influence.